Hey, this is the B major video and actually also the C flat major video. We'll talk about both scales. I actually have the B major fretboard up here right now. So this video has been kind of tricky. It's just how to kind of work both of them in together because of the 30 scales, 15 major, 15 minor. You can technically say 6 blend together because basically 2 and 2, well 3 majors share the same majors notes kind of, and 3 minors share the same sound. I should say sounds, but the notes are just named differently. So obviously I was playing in B major. The notes of B major are B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp, which obviously makes up the B major, the C sharp Dorian, the D sharp Phrygian, the E Lydian, the F sharp Mixolydian, the G sharp minor, and the A sharp Locrian. And it's definitely one of the scales that I need to, if I'm just going to be playing in that scale, I need to work on. My defaults are to go to maybe an A natural, a G natural, or a D natural, rather than falling to the sharps of them. Although I found going between B and C sharp minor not to be a difficult transition or something that I would remember to do. I don't know really why that came so natural to me, because I don't really use a C sharp minor much. I would probably either do a C major or a C minor more dominant in my playing, or what I would do before this. But definitely something I would want to work on. The whole reason why I'm doing this is just to get used to that. With this scale, obviously I've never really said it before, but in any major scale, B would be your 1, that would be your major. C sharp would be your 2, that would be your minor. D sharp would be your 3, that would be another minor. E would be your 4th, be a major. F sharp would be your 5th, and your major. G sharp minor would be your 6th, and A sharp diminished would be your 7th. I made sure definitely to get that sound in there. Hopefully in the final one. I've done this video so many times just because I've been trying to blend with, and figure out how to talk about the C sharp or the C flat major. We will go into that very shortly once I finish talking about this. But again, when it comes to all this and getting this down, I mean, there's more chords than these 7 that are there. Definitely, you could just look at the patterns, come up with your own thing. The fact that the E, the E's are open and the B's, you can definitely come up with some, ways that you can keep them open and change the structure of your fingering between what would usually be the A, the D, and the G. Obviously, you would, if you leave it open and just do the B, the E, and the G sharp, you're going to get the E major, or even if you do the B, D sharp, and G sharp, and leave the rest open, you'll get a major 7th, an E major 7th out of that. But talking about chords would just make this video go too long. So again, just you can pause the video at whatever, just to study the neck and see the patterns that you would work out, or how you would want to tackle whatever scale you're in. And then what I'll do is quickly change over to the fretboard for C flat major, just so you can see where it's similar. Well, actually, it'll look exactly like this, but the notes will change. So hang on one moment. Let me make that change. Okay, so I brought up the C flat major scale. Obviously, you see here everything's flat. So D flat, E flat, F flat, G flat, A flat, B flat would be the notes here. So basically 7 flats. And it's weird for a guitarist to see the E as F flat. It's not something very common that you would see. Actually, a lot. It's not a very common, um, scale that you run into. Obviously, tuning a half step down. If you look at the 11th fret or 23rd fret, however you want to look at this when you're practicing, obviously you would see that's what's tuned. If you do a half step down with guitars. So a lot of guitars might, end up in E flat, and if you played the Phrygian, you might be in something related to the A minor, the A flat minor, or the C flat major there. But it's really just going to come up to preferences, looking into what really the difference between B major and C major is. Obviously on a piano there's no difference, but some instruments, there's definitely a difference. And vocals was one where actually frequencies could change to where you might, find yourself from F sharp to G flat. There'd be different frequencies and actually a different sound. And I'm sure there's some other instruments. I'd have to just get more familiar with what instruments, you would find that in. That's something, for me to do some homework on. Because I feel like when you get into these levels right here, when we get to the typical 6 that are, well, I should say it's basically always 2 that are together, but putting the 3 majors and the 3 minors together, because obviously here we're dealing with 2 majors being the same and 2 minors being the same, and this will happen 2 more times. When you're dealing with this, sometimes it just really comes down to instrument. But let's talk about the chords here. Basically the chord shapes will be the same as B minor, but again, you could play them as a C flat major, a D flat minor, an E flat minor, an F flat major, a G flat major, an A flat minor, and a B flat diminished. Once again, going back to the C flat, and again, just like before, there's definitely major, changes, or not major changes, but changes that can be made to the chords so that you get different sounds even just from what's in there, diminished, augmented, sevenths, flat fives, but some of that stuff would come out of, would actually be out of the realm of the scale. So, I mean, obviously the purpose of this is just to learn what the different scales are as a whole themselves. So then later going into the blending, I've said that before, and really going into there. This has been one of the tougher ones, just because in explaining the 2 different scales, when basically you're playing things identical, and then you're saying, oh well, it could be this, it could be that. Sometimes it's just your own preference. If you're writing in the staff, not so much guitar tablature, but if you're doing staff, that's where this stuff comes up. You would have to have some, knowledge of writing in a key, what that means. And, with how complex music can get, you might not have to really worry, about that, unless you're, really going to be writing something for another musician where you have to really explain it to them, and and even they could interpret it their own way, even as you presented it. But at least if they have an idea of theory, they would get where you're coming from, whether it was right or wrong. They would probably, I would say, like if you're hearing something as E flat Phrygian, but they come to you and say, it really does sound more like the D flat Phrygian to me. It's really semantics at that point, but you will see songs where you have everything flat. You will see things where it's just dealing with if we look at it as piano style, that would be all the sharps would be in there. So that's where these really come up, and that's really where it's going to come up again, is when we deal with basically something that's going to have all the sharps. When something has all the sharps, you're probably going to have 5 flats. And that'll come up later. We won't ruin the surprise there. When it's all up, said and done, maybe I'll do an overview of everything that we've gone over. But I don't, because I'm going over 2, I don't want to go too long. But again, at any point, feel free to pause, just look at the fretboard, play it, starting at any root you want, just to get the sounds. And even, typically, I guess, really quick as we're wrapping up, the difference between a sharp and a flat. I mean, obviously, when you're going to sharp something, you're going higher, and when you're going flat, you're going lower. So, obviously, why is an F flat an F flat? It's because you went from the F and you went higher, so you went up to the F flat, and then that would, maybe something doing chromatically, definitely you'd hear that more, depending on how you're writing or what scale you're in. And then of course, if you're playing in A, you would go up or down, I should say, because you're going lower to the A flat. So that's the difference between flats and sharps. I'm assuming that people have basic knowledge when I'm doing this. I don't want to be too condescending on people watching these videos. So I'm always assuming that there's a basic understanding, especially when we come to this far. But if there isn't, like I said, really the key is just look at how or what notes you're supposed to be playing on the fretboard. Go from there, and then the rest can fall into place in due time with maybe a better teacher than me. But that's it for this one. Have a good one.